Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and where the bitty Bitcoin could be going in the next few months. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so we will go over the Bitcoin chart here in a minute. And then once we go through all these indicators, I'm going to wrap up and give you guys my thoughts about what comes next over the next few months. So let's talk about it. All right, so first thing here is the 5-year search term for crypto. So the gist of this is pretty basic. All right. So we're basically sitting in the low teens here, or not even the teens, actually, probably like 10 to 15, somewhere in there. Because, the teens don't technically start until 13, right? So this is pretty much synonymous with basically the bear market low and the time right before the spot Bitcoin ETFs got approved. And then, of course, Bitcoin moonshot all the way up to 75,000. Do I think 75,000 is the peak? No. No, I do not. Absolutely not. I'm going to explain why here in a little bit. So, October 2022, you can see we're pretty much sitting at the same levels that we're currently at. And again, those were the bear market lows. So, two things this tells me basically that retail hasn't really FOMO'd in yet, like really FOMO'd in. You guys got to understand about retail, okay? Usually when things are boring, they're just doing nothing. Bitcoin's kind of just, just kind of humming and hemming and hawing around in the zone. Retail's not looking at that and getting excited. They don't care about that. Okay, they're wanting to buy like when you see something like this. Okay, 5 green weeks in a row, price goes up more than 2x. That's when they want to buy. They don't want to buy this right here. They look at this and say, "Oh, that's garbage, dude. It's not doing nothing. It's dead. I don't want to mess with that." Most people don't want to do that. Okay, they're looking for the easy gravy train, quick money, that kind of thing, and it will come. But retail is not going to be looking at Bitcoin when it's doing this. It's going to be looking at Bitcoin when it's doing this. Okay. So again, first thing, retail hasn't really, they haven't really come in yet, in my opinion, which leads me to the second point, which is that, in my opinion, we're still very early. All right, and you guys got to understand during this boring time period here, that's when institutions like BlackRock and Fidelity and some of these other rich dudes like Michael Saylor, who's the Bitcoin god or whatever, all these different guys buying the Bitcoin, they're buying it in here, y'all. When you see these dips down here to the bottom of this flag, that's where they're buying these dips. Okay, they're not like retail. They're not going to wait for Bitcoin to moonshot to $500 billion and then be like, "Oh God, I want some." They're not going to do that. Okay, they're going to buy these little tiny dips that you see in here when the price looks like it's doing absolutely nothing, and it's just it's a dumpster fire and nobody wants to touch it. Right? That's how retail thinks. But whales don't think like this. Whales think, if I buy down here at the bottom of this flag, how much is this price going to skyrocket to the top of the flag? Well, if you transact, let's just say $100,000 in Bitcoin, okay? Let's just say a whale just does a very tiny transaction because $100,000 for a whale is nothing. That's like a drop in the bucket, okay? So if they're doing a $100,000 transaction from the bottom of this flag to the top of this flag, and they say, well, I want to accumulate here and I want to dump at the top of this flag until this pattern is no longer consistent. And whales probably do use technical analysis to trade these markets. I would not be surprised. I mean, they have to make their money somehow. 23% of 100,000 is $23,000. Okay, if you buy Bitcoin down here at 58,000, you sell up here at 72,000. Well, you just turned your 100,000 into 120,000. You sell out, cash out, get $120,000, and then you buy down here. Well, now instead of having, let's see, at this price, 60,000, you have like maybe 1 2/3 of a Bitcoin. Now you have $123,000 in U.S. capital. Now all of a sudden, when you buy this dip down here, it allows you to buy 2 Bitcoin for the same dollars spent. Okay. So you go from 1 2/3 of a Bitcoin to 2 Bitcoin at this dump. And then when it rips again, so you buy $120,000 worth of Bitcoin down here, it rips again, has another 26% gain. Well, what's 26% of 120,000? And again, I'm trying to teach you guys how the whales do this, okay? Because this is important. So let's just say it was a 23% gain, right? Another 27,600. So you got basically about 150,000. You can see Bitcoin dips back down here again for a third time in the flag. Well, how many times does 50,000 go into 150,000? That's 3 times. So now all of a sudden you go from having 2 Bitcoin to having 3 Bitcoin. You see my point, right? Retail's not looking at this. They don't care about that. They care about, oh, is price going up? That's what they care about. They don't care about what's going on in here. This is what the whales and institutions care about. Okay, so Bitcoin search term, you guys can see we're slowly trending up, but again, it's still sitting relatively low. I mean, basically pretty much about the same area we were at before the spot Bitcoin ETFs got approved, and also roughly about the same area that we were at before before we came off the bear market lows back in late 2022. So not really much has changed. Again, we're in early. Retail has not FOMO'd in yet. Okay, if you're buying crypto right now, in my opinion, it's the best time to buy. That's not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to go out there and buy crypto. Okay, do your own research. Never invest more than you can afford to lose, and understand what you're getting into. Okay, I'm just telling you based on what I'm seeing that now is a good time to get in before the prices start ripping. And again, that's not a signal. That's not financial advice. You guys can do what you want to. All right. So crypto fear and greed here. We're coming off of these lows. I have been telling you guys for some time that as the crypto and fear and greed index, historically, when it sits around a 20 to a 30, somewhere in there, or maybe even lower in some cases, but usually around a 20 to a 30 is the best time to get into crypto. Okay. And then when we're up here, 70 to 90, that's the best time to get out of crypto. Okay. And that does reflect in the charts with some indicators like the MACD and stuff like that. But we're currently now starting to move off of those lows. Okay. So the crypto fear and greed index is back to neutral. And I suspect it's probably going to move more towards the greed area as we get into October. That's what I think is going to happen. Okay. And especially as we get towards the end of the year. So, and once again, I've been telling you guys about this for weeks. We have been buying on the dip, just so y'all know. We're going to show you that in the next video. So MVRV score, you can see this thing slowly trudging down. It kind of almost looks like the flag the Bitcoin's in, interestingly enough. It's kind of weird. Even though the Bitcoin price is actually all the way up here, it looks very similar. It's kind of odd. So yeah, pretty much the gist of this is if we get up here between roughly about a 7 to a 10, it's a good time to get out. And anything between basically, I'd say about a 0.0 and maybe roughly about a 0.6 is ideally the most optimal time to get in. I would say anything probably between a 0 to a 2. You're in good company at that point. You're buying pretty much as low as the price can get. And that's pretty much just how this works. Okay, so we're closer towards the buy zone than the sell zone. That's what I'm going to say about that. Bitcoin rainbow chart. This thing's pretty simple. Okay, it usually bleeds off a little bit after we get past the halving. You can see bleeds off a little bit and or goes sideways, maybe has a little bit of a markup phase, but generally speaking, it does kind of pull back afterwards. That is actually what happened. We told you guys this is what we expected. It doesn't really come as a surprise to us. So I think this thing probably gets to, I would say, we'll have to look at this, but I think it could get somewhere in between still cheap and is this a bubble? The reason why I pick these two particular areas is because it's usually when people are somewhere in between saying, is this a bubble? And, oh, we're in a new paradigm shift, guys. Everything's going to $1 zillion. Never sell. Usually sometime in between there. That's when the whales come in and say, okay, you know what? These guys are getting stupid. Let's just go ahead and dump everything on their heads. Screw these guys. We're going to take profits. If they choose to hold, that's on them. That's kind of why I suspect that area might be where Bitcoin tops out. Okay. It's basically retail's psychology in between, oh, is this it? And then, oh my God, we're never going to go down. Somewhere in between there is probably when they're going to be looking to take profits. So, again, I mean, that could range anything from, if we're looking at the end of, say, maybe October of 2025, anywhere from, I'd say probably at least 150,000. I think this is being kind of generous, but somewhere between roughly about 200,000 to potentially all the way up to maybe 300,000, 350,000. Look, I think this is a little off. I could be wrong about this, but I would say realistically, Bitcoin could probably top out somewhere between 140 to maybe 220,000. Okay. I have reasons for saying that. Basically, pretty much the idea here is that Bitcoin during the previous cycle did a 13x from the bottom to the peak. Okay, so it went from about 3,000 down here. Well, you can't see it exactly on the chart, but it was roughly about 3,000 all the way up to about 69,000 at the peak. That's about a 23x. So if Bitcoin does half of that on this cycle from the lows to the top, you're talking about 11.5x, and the lows was down here at roughly about 16,000. So if we do 11.5 times 16,000, and again, this may not necessarily be spot on, but you can see the median price here is roughly about 184,000. Okay. So saying 140 to 220,000, not that much of a stretch. And the other thing is too, if we look from peak to peak, okay, so 2017 peak was 20,000 to the peak of 2021, that's a 3.5x, okay, 20,000 to basically 70,000. If we go from the peak of 2021, and let's just say that Bitcoin can do a 2x, okay, or a 2.5x. Okay, 2x 70,000 is 140,000. 2.5x 70,000 would be roughly about 170,000. So again, it lines up pretty much right about the estimate that we're giving here. All right, so we're gonna go over to the Nupal now. So Nupal's had time to cool down a little bit. Again, the closer you get to the green box, the better it is, the better time to buy. Closer to the pink box, better time to sell. We got pretty close back here during the 75,000 K peak, but is that the top in my opinion? No, I don't think so. Again, look, you got to think about it like this, okay? BlackRock and these other guys, they're not going to be buying the bottoms of these bull flags with the intention to accumulate unless they know the price is going to go higher. You guys got to understand, okay? These institutions, these whales, they're in this business to make money, okay? What is the point of them buying down here if the price is just going to go down and sideways forever, okay? Or even dump? What is the point? If they thought the price was going to dump off a cliff to the downside, do you think they would be accumulating so heavily down here? No, they would not. And in future videos, I'll go over the inflows with you guys in terms of the spot ETFs and Michael Saylor and all them guys. Okay, we'll go over how much Bitcoin they've been buying. But if you guys haven't been keeping up with the news, they've been buying a crap ton of Bitcoin. Okay, I think Michael Saylor just did like $1 billion transaction. That's huge. Okay, that's absolutely massive for the amount of money that MicroStrategy has. That is a lot of capital. Okay. If these guys thought that this price was going to dump by 50% or something crazy like that, they would not be buying in here. Okay. They'd wait for the dump. That's what they would do. So my guess is they're buying in here because they know the price is getting ready to rip. Okay. Again, if you want to trade like the whales, you got to learn to think like the whales. All right. So Pi cycle top indicator. EMA is pretty much what we're looking at here in terms of the EMA. So the top EMA currently at 98,000. Bottom EMA currently 62,000. I'm not sure why the green EMA is not stretching out like the yellow one, but you can see the prices here are 62,000 and 108,000. So Bitcoin could actually go up to 108,000, or at the very least, just shy of 100,000. Get to this green EMA and still not even be in the parabolic phase of the bull run. Again, when it gets above the green EMA, that's when you get the moonshot. Okay. And just to get up to the green EMA is between 100 to 110,000. And again, that's not that much of a stretch. I mean, that's about a 50% gain from the $75,000 Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's just done nothing but go sideways for like 6 months. All right. So the other thing to note is when we do get below the yellow EMA, we do not stay down below the yellow EMA for long. Okay. Unless we're in a bear market, which in this case, we're not in a bear market because you can see these series of higher highs and higher lows indicating we're still in a bull trend. Okay. So in terms of looking in the bull trend direction, if we are ever below this yellow EMA, it's not for long. You can see back here in September 2023, we didn't stay down there long, a couple of months, and then we were out of it. Back here during August of 2015, a couple of months or a couple of weeks, I guess you'd say, and then we were out of it. We dipped briefly below here, then we were out of it. Even all the way back here in whoops. Oh, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. But yeah, even all the way back in 2013, we dipped below it just temporarily back here on this kind of double peak. And then eventually, after a few months, boom, we skyrocketed to a second peak. So this pretty much tells me that likely we are going to be heading higher based on this chart, because usually the price always respects kind of spending most of his time in between these EMAs or around the EMAs. All right, so M2 money supply. The gist of this is real simple. Okay, when the blue line goes up, the green little whatever you want to call this, the graph goes up. Okay, that means the M2 money supply and the M2 growth year over year is expanding. That's increasing as the Fed cuts rates. The Fed just cut rates. Usually, when we see an explosion of the blue line and the M2 money supply growth year over year, that is when Bitcoin goes on parabolic rallies. Okay, we saw it back in 2021. We saw it kind of slowly play out over time in 2017, which, I think that probably this time is going to be something with Bitcoin. It's going to be something in between 2017 and 2021. So maybe not really fast to the upside, but not really slow, kind of somewhere in between. But, still going up towards the end of 2025. I think Bitcoin by the end of 2025 could be like probably around at least 150,000, maybe 200 some thousand. Okay, so let's talk about why I think likely that we are about to break out, and we're not actually done with the bull run yet. Okay, so the interesting thing I want to point out about the reason why I think we're not done with the bull run is because we've been consolidating in this massive bull flag for months. Okay, it has been literally 6 months we've been sitting in this flag doing absolutely nothing. This is what the whales want, so they have time to accumulate and they can control the price. Okay. And when I say whales, I'm referring to the whales as everyone, but there is whales and then there's institutions. Okay, whales are the guys that have been in the space for years. They're billionaires because they got into Bitcoin early. Okay, or millionaires or whatever. And the institutions are also whales, but these guys are new money. They're the ones that are now coming in early or late, I should say, to the game, and they have not been in the space a long time. Okay, so that's what I refer to when I say whales and institutions. So the reason I think the top is not in yet is for a multitude of reasons. Okay, we're getting the Fed rate cuts. There's a dovish, bullish outlook on the economy. Markets are going to new all-time highs. Okay, inflation's under control. The Fed is cutting rates. They're going to start printing money soon, which means that usually companies take a long time to start rehiring people. Not this time. I don't think it's going to happen this time. Okay, I suspect that as I said before, the Knicks of the two events, okay, the crossover of the two events, as the Fed's cutting rates, employers will start hiring more people as they're cutting rates. Okay, the two will go in opposite directions. So the more that the Fed cuts rates, the more that companies are going to hire people. Okay, and it's going to happen perfectly in sync in time with each other. That's exactly what I'm expecting. Okay, so those are the macro reasons. Now, technical, you can see that we literally dumped. Okay, I'm not even joking when I say this. Over a matter of, looks like basically a handful of weeks, okay? 6 weeks, we dumped minus 55%. All right. And if I'm measuring here, you can see down to the bottom of, let's say, this red wick here. 3 weeks, we dropped a massive, I got to remeasure this actually. Hold on 1 second. So 3 weeks, we dropped roughly about a massive 40%. Okay, 6 weeks, 3 weeks, we dropped huge. If I go back here to 2017, and again, these are all shorter time frames than what we're currently seeing, 2017. Okay, if I go down here to this low point, you can see we dropped a massive 70% in 8 weeks. Okay, it was literally 2 months. So we have 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and 8 weeks. We dropped more than half. We literally gave Bitcoin a 50% haircut. But we are not seeing this time, okay? This time, we have spent 6 months from the top consolidating in a bull flag. Okay, that's exactly what this is. 27 weeks. That's okay. It's a little bit longer than 6 months. But 27 weeks consolidating in a bull flag, which is why I think likely we are going to new all-time highs. The top is not in yet, okay? Because the thing is, usually when Bitcoin dumps, it dumps fast. Okay, it doesn't take a long time. Okay, the peak comes in maybe like 4 or 5 weeks later, boom, 50, 60% drop. Did we see this? Did we see that this time? No, we did not. Okay, Bitcoin's just kind of bobbing around up and down in here, so the whales and the institutions, they can get their piece of the pie before eventually the price rips to the upside. Because I can promise you guys, well, I can't promise you anything, but look, I am more than 100% confident that the whales are not buying in this area with the intention of shorting Bitcoin. Okay, why would they do that? If they want to grow their Bitcoin stack over time, they can't do it if Bitcoin goes to zero. Okay, and Bitcoin's not going to zero. They can only do it if it goes up because, again, price in markets can only go to zero to the downside, but they can go up infinitely to the upside. Okay, so the best way to grow your stack as a Bitcoin holder or as a Bitcoin whale is for the price to go up. So these guys, in my opinion, are accumulating with the intention of the price going up. Now, the other reason why I think the bull run's about to start. All right, so once we get above this $65,000 level, this creates what's known as a structure change in terms of trading. Okay, this probably actually would be a little bit better. This would be a little bit better indicated on the daily time frame. So let me go down to the daily time frame real quick, y'all. Okay, so give me 1 second here. Yeah, I gotta move the chart real quick so y'all can see this a little bit better. Okay, so you can already see the breakout we're getting of the EMAs, okay, on the RSI. That's a very bullish signal. But the point I want to make here is that during this entire bull flag, the price has created higher highs and higher lows, okay? Or not higher highs and higher lows, lower highs and lower lows. But the price is not broken down. This is usually what happens in a bull flag, okay? So we have a high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. And this, as of right now, is a lower high, but in my opinion, it's going to break this previous lower high, and we're going to change trend here soon. So you have a low, lower low, lower low, lower low. This was obviously a scare, and then a lower low. Again, these scares, these massive fake out dumps are meant to try to trap liquidity and get them out of the market so the whales can buy your stacks, your bags at cheap prices. So here's kind of what I'm getting at, okay? So here's what I'm expecting to happen. We got this lower low, 2 lowers, okay, and then 1 lower high. So I'm expecting the price to come up, hit 65K, come back, hit this trend line, and then boom, okay? Or what could alternatively happen is we could see something like this, okay? It comes down, and we're at where the price is right now, okay? We come back, hit this white trend line, break out, come back, retest one of these white or golden lines, and then boom, skyrocket to the moon. And basically, this is what's known as a structure change, okay, or a trend change or a flip zone. So we would be turning this from basically lower lows and lower highs into higher lows and higher highs, okay? So this would be a low, then we get a higher low, and then another higher low, and then we just keep getting higher lows and higher highs as the price goes up, okay? So we get above this high, then this next high here would be a higher high. That indicates a bull trend. I suspect that's exactly what's about to happen here, probably in the next 4 weeks. Okay. I would give it maybe 2 to 4 weeks. I don't think it's going to be longer than that. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing I want to go over here, I did not mean to do that. Sorry, y'all. TradingView can be kind of a pain sometimes to deal with. So the next point I want to make here, and this can be my last point of this video, is that every time we get one of these breakouts of the RSIs on the weekly time frame, you can see this downtrend line that I have on these RSIs. Every time we get one of these, we get a massive move up, okay? So we got this dump here. The RSI, obviously we had this kind of bearish divergence, price going up, RSI going down, but this RSI held below a trend line until it was ready to break out, and you can see the breakout down here, okay? The golden cross on the RSI, price bounced out of this falling wedge, and then as soon as we got a breakout of this white line, what happened? Boom, absolute explosion to the upside, okay? Same thing down here. This is not perfect. It did take a little bit longer than expected in this particular instance. But once we got the breakout of the trend line, it was only just a couple more months, and then boom, Bitcoin hit its bottom and started moving up. And then we broke the trend line here during 2023. What happened? We eventually broke out of this kind of sideways chop channel. This flat top is what I refer to it as, and then boom, price explosion. We're seeing something very similar here, okay? The RSI is about ready to get a breakout on the weekly time frame. We are literally about to have a golden cross on the RSI. When this has happened before, every single time, it's led to an explosion in the price of Bitcoin, okay? Every single time. Now, again, whether it plays out immediately or not, well, it depends on the point in time you're talking about. But generally speaking, when we get the break of the trend line, we get the golden cross, and you can see the MACD EMA is already starting to curl up here. Momentum starting to shift on the histogram. Every single time there is an explosion in the price of Bitcoin. All right, so that's what I'm looking at. You can already see these massive green candles here. All of crypto is looking green. Grayscale Trust moving up. Okay, everything is looking good. So in terms of Bitcoin dominance, once again, I'm gonna talk about this forever until we see it play out. Okay, I suspect this thing is probably gonna go up to about 60 before it sells off. Okay, 60. And once again, I have reasons for this because you guys can see the last time this thing hit 60, you can kind of see this base formation here. That's the last time we had that waterfall moment in 2021. Bitcoin led to altcoin seasons. This was also previous heavy resistance during the 2019, 2018 kind of bear market. And pretty much what we're looking for here is this rising wedge is basically a bearish pattern. Once we see a waterfall out of it, that indicates all seasons here. But in my opinion, we're not going to get that alt season until Bitcoin hits its new all-time highs. Okay. Now, alts, maybe they'll move up with Bitcoin during the time that Bitcoin's going to all-time highs, but we're not going to see alts really start to explode until the Bitcoin dominance falls because, again, psychologically, the people that made the money on Bitcoin, they're going to want to move that money out of Bitcoin and into the altcoins. Okay. That's when the price of altcoins will explode. So let's go over one last chart, ETH BTC. Okay, so the gist of this chart basically is this. When ETH BTC is going up, that indicates Ethereum and altcoins dominate the market. When it's going down, that means Bitcoin is dominating the market. Okay, this is basically the inverse of the Bitcoin dominance. So until we get a break of this downtrend line that you guys can see right here on the weekly time frame, in my opinion, Bitcoin still remains the king of the market for that particular time, which again lines up perfectly with what I've been saying, that likely the top for crypto and Bitcoin is not in. Okay, Bitcoin's going to go to whatever it goes to before it tops out, and then we should theoretically see ETH Bitcoin start breaking out to the upside. So last thing I want to go over here is basically the Fibonacci retracement level for the maximum profit target here. Okay, this is macro high to macro low, which again indicates lines up perfectly with what I said about roughly about 140 to 220,000 Bitcoins. So you have 100,000, 155,000, 210,000, and 244,000. So it lines up somewhere around that 2.618, 3.618 level, which again lines up with everything else we've said. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.